Welcome to our 9th Wonderspace journey, where we ask our guests to orbit around wonders and their stories of hopefulness. In each of our weekly episodes, we ask our guests the same 6 questions, which are reflected in the words on the timeline at the bottom of the screen. Today we share this virtual window seat with Sara Hyde, who on the week of the US elections talks about politics, theatre, prisons, and shares one of her most influential quotes from Martin Luther King. But I start by asking Sara which city or country she would want us to fly over and why.
The city I would most like to fly past in the world that is significant to me is Auckland. It's 12,000 miles away and my mum's family live there. My cousin is there. I'm just going to try and do this without crying, and I'm very close to my cousin, and sometimes 12,000 miles is a very, very long way, even in a hyper-connected world. And I've had many significant life moments there. She has 2 beautiful children. She had cancer a few years ago, but all is well now. And there's a beautiful dormant volcano when I go to Auckland that I like to visit called Rangitoto. And there's something about looking at that volcano and knowing just how long it's been there for that helps me check my thoughts about my own significance in the world. And there's something very grounding to go back to that at different points in my life and to visit it with my cousin. A glimpse into my life story so far. I've always been really passionate about other people and caring for other people and creating a better place for us all to live in, really. And I tried to do that initially through a career in theatre. I've been involved with the Caledonian Road area of London for about 17, 18 years now, doing various community work, homelessness projects, all kinds of things like that. And then I began to volunteer in prison and ended up working in prisons. And I guess that was a bit of an awakening for me, really, having been a kind of grassroots activist and finding myself in this environment where it wasn't just individuals that we were dealing with. There was just these themes of extreme poverty, addiction, childhood abuse and trauma, adverse childhood events, terrible mental health, just these kind of structural themes that kept presenting themselves to me in a way that I felt like I could no longer ignore. And there's a Martin Luther King quote about the story of the Good Samaritan. People might be familiar with that. Somebody's attacked and several people walk on by, and then eventually the Good Samaritan comes along and bandages them up and they recover. But there's a Martin Luther King quote that says, true compassion is more than flinging a coin to a beggar. It comes to see that a system that produces beggars needs to be repaved. We are called to be the Good Samaritan, but after you lift so many people out of that ditch, you start to ask, maybe the whole road to Jericho needs to be repaved. And I think it's thinking like that has changed what I've done with my life. So it's great to be involved in food banks or to work in prisons with individuals. But for me, that was a call to get involved in party politics, in structural politics, so we could repave that Jericho road, because I was spending my life triaging victims of a broken system rather than dealing with the system itself. So I went as a very kind of naive grassroots activist onto a women's mentoring scheme run by Fabian Women's Network, and that just plugged me into this kind of world of structural politics, Labour Party politics. And that was 7 years ago, and then in that time I've gone on to be a London Assembly candidate, a parliamentary candidate, and then I've become a local councillor and recently became the chief whip for the council in the area that I represent. I've also become the chair of Fabian Women's Network and recently begun a PhD in prison health. And when I started as chair of Fabian Women's Network, I really wanted to look at our values, and we did a whole exercise, and we now try and run everything as an organisation out of the values of sisterhood, solidarity and service. Because actually for me, it's very easy in the political world to lose sight of why you started this journey. And so those values of sisterhood, solidarity and service are something that I can keep returning to in my practice. And I get it wrong all of the time, and I need something to anchor me, a set of values that I can look at and think, why am I doing this again? What is the purpose? What is the reason? And the reason is to serve communities. And as Bonhoeffer said, rather than bandaging the wounds of victims beneath the wheels of injustice, to drive a spoke into the wheel itself. And that is something that in my very tiny way I'm trying to do with groups of people in different parts of our world. My place of reset is the River Thames. I was born on the Thames, obviously in some romantic teenage fantasy, literally on the banks, but no, in hospital, that is on the Thames. And when I was a teenager, I read this Jeanette Winterson book called Sexing the Cherry, and there's a woman who lives literally on the muddy banks of the Thames, and that set my imagination totally alight as to just the longevity of that river, the history of that river, again, the sense of something just bigger than me. And still living in London, I just love it. Whenever I have to cross the river or go to the river, I just look at it and I'm like, it's okay. Life is long and there are many threads and there are many people and there's a lot that is much bigger than you, Sara, much more enduring than you. And that river is like a constant in my life and a kind of thread in my life and helps me remember to not get above myself, really. The wonder of the natural world that excites me the most is actually the human heart. For about 15 years I've been trying to make a piece of theatre about the human heart because I find it endlessly fascinating as a kind of biological mechanism, but also all of the kind of spiritual symbolism, its symbolism in romance, its potency, these stories of like heart transplant patients that take on the characteristics of other people, but this thing that starts before we're born and goes all of the time until we die. The way that travels with us, the way it grows with us, just the way it makes our body functions, as well as all of those other resonances. I just find that endlessly fascinating. I mean, you can explain it to me in terms of the science and the biology, and I can comprehend it at that level, but there's another level at which it fills me with awe. My story of hopefulness is about all the people I know that have lived experience of the criminal justice system and are now doing something flipping phenomenal to make it better for other people. My friend Tony was 15 years in and out of prison in recovery. He has set up a charity, Hope and Vision, which is about housing people after they come out of intensive rehab. My friend Mandy, long history of very, very difficult life, long in and out of prison, went on to become a drugs worker, again now runs housing projects for women that are intensive rehab recovery housing. My friend Paula runs Prisoner Policy Network at Prison Reform Trust, Paula Harriet, and she has gone down the more structural end of things like me and is looking at how we can get the voices of people with experience of prison and of criminal justice to change the policy and practice in our system, and really honouring people's experience and wisdom from their life experiences that put them in that place in the first place, and then how they moved on and moved through. And those three people, they're some of the best people that I know, because the kind of adversity that people have to overcome to get into those places, and then to be able to speak, truth to power from that lived experience is really profound. And they are just honestly some of the bravest and best people I know, and they challenge me constantly to be better, to dig deeper, to go further, like in the pursuit of real justice, because our system is so broken. And they are all just really proactively involved with a deeper level of justice, a deeper level of community, a deeper level of healing and restoration. And they just always give me hope, because they are phenomenal human beings. The wisdom I would like to share that has challenged me for many, many years now is Desmond Tutu's idea of Ubuntu, which is I am what I am because of what we all are. And just the profound interconnectedness of humanity. So when Black Lives Matter happens, I need to deeply engage with that, because I am what I am because of who we all are. When it's the Trans Day of Remembrance, I need to deeply engage with that. When I look at prisons, I need to deeply engage with who is in them and why it is so, and what we need to do differently, because I am what I am because of who we all are. And I guess that's about my socialism, my values, my faith. We are profoundly interconnected, we are profoundly relational, and if we're going to build a better society, we need to look in every corner for the people that have not been in the narrative, in the mainstream, or listened to, and really listen and give space to that and change off the back of it, because I am what I am because of who we all are.
The organisations that Sara shared as her stories of hopefulness are Hope and Vision, the Treasures Foundation, and Prisoner Policy Network at Prison Reform Trust. Amongst these most challenging of times, we believe that wonder and stories of hopefulness can lift our eyes and bring much needed perspective. Alongside these weekly editions, we have created a platform where everyone has the opportunity to engage with the 6 questions and share wonders and stories of hopefulness. You can join this community at ourwonder.space. Thank you to Sara for joining us in this virtual window seat this week. I'll leave you with these words that Sara quoted from Martin Luther King and Dietrich Bonhoeffer.